I'll introduce you to our panel who are going to help us make sense of today's events. Right in the middle is Roslyn Odede. She is a legal consultant. To my immediate right is Macharia Gaitho, an independent journalist. And to the far corner of our bench is Edward Kisiangani, a resident analyst from the show Opinion Court. And thank you all for being with us. Macharia, let's start with the fact that in as much as Raila Odinga said that he is not participating in this election, you see votes coming in for him. His name is on the ballot. What do you make of it?
Well, his name is on the ballot because he did announce that he's withdrawing from the race, but he didn't submit the requisite form to officially withdraw. I think it was called 24 something, 24A or B or whatever. So he remained on the ballot.
Right.
And people will vote for him if they wish to vote, and those votes will be counted.
Right.
Yeah.
The issue is the Form 24 operational at this stage or otherwise? That's a legal issue that hasn't been resolved.
Exactly, because of the number of requisite days. Roslyn, your thoughts on today's exercise? Again, unfortunately, in 2017, Kenyan elections continued to be marred with violence, deaths, and now even cancellation of voting in at least 4 counties.
The cancellation of votes in 4 counties is very, very telling on the success of today's process. We hear about 5,000 polling stations did not open.
Right.
The fact that they have set a date for the re-voting in those stations means that their results affect the outcome. So it means that it is very, very crucial that those counties actually have an election before we can call it an election.
All right. And of course, we heard Prof to the contrary today from Jubilee saying that there's just about a little over 1 million votes that would be collated from these areas. Would it be prudent for IEBC to wait for, the entire election to be done before they give the final outcome, even though the law allows them to declare a winner if the remaining areas will not significantly impact the final result?
I think, Anne, it's correct for the IEBC to try and get the areas that never participated in the voting to do so for a second time. But I don't even understand why they would go to that extent, because I don't know whether they are going to achieve their desire of having people to vote. But also they are working within a very strict timeline, that within 7 days they should announce the results. So I suspect that after Saturday, when if the same thing turns out to be the case, like it has happened in Homa Bay, Kisumu, and several other places, then probably they will abandon that option of giving more time to the people to vote, and probably just count the vote that is available and announce the results.
Let's just take a look at how polling kicked off, Macharia. So you have over 35 polling stations that the IEBC chairman says open on time.
35,000.
Oh, yes. Plus, and they're talking about 87% of their total polling stations. They talk about as of this point having a turnout of 48% as of 5 p.m. What do you make of that sort of turnout and that kickoff to the election? Would you say it was fairly better than expected given the prevailing circumstances, or worse off?
Given the circumstances, 48% looks quite impressive. I'd like to see how they reached that 48%, because from what we have seen in terms of being out in the field and seeing the physical voting or the lack of queues in Nairobi and elsewhere, I'm a bit curious. I'm a bit curious. Okay. I'm not doubting it, but I would like to see how it where that number was achieved from.
Exactly.
Because even in the Jubilee strongholds in central Kenya, where the turnout was pretty high, even if you could give them 80%, Rift Valley maybe 60%. The rest of the country, you're talking about under 10% in most places.
And so a breakdown of that 48%
it will be important for us to know how accurate that number is.
Yeah, and I think the chairman promised a briefing with more detail on that, Rosalind, you know, but if we were to go with those figures and assume that they are in fact correct, that is less than half of the total, you know, registered voters. Does that have an implication on the legitimacy of a poll when you have less than half of the registered voters show up?
Indeed, it does. And I want to subscribe to his views that we don't even know how the 48% is being calculated. Probably in terms of registered voters in the 35,000 polling stations. But we know in the 35,000 polling stations, not everyone who registered has voted. So I think even the 48% is probably just out there in the air and not real. But going with even 48% and looking at what democracy is, and it is a social contract with the people. A social contract with the people means the people must contract into the process. So you must have a legitimate percentage of the citizenry, a legitimate percentage of registered voters coming in to participate in the democratic process. And I think it's really, really sad that if less than even 50%, and we doubt even the 48%, come in to vote, then we think that legitimacy is a big problem going forward. We think that the social contract signed with the people is not quite there.
And so it would make the winner, give them a harder time in terms of governing, but in terms of pure law, because it isn't a legal obligation on every Kenyan to vote.
In terms of winning, he will have won. He will have met the conditions of winning.
He will actually get, I think, anything less than 99% of the vote would be a disappointment. He'll get that, but 99% of vote.
Exactly.
Okay, he will win legally. He gets... He passes all the thresholds and he can be sworn in. But there will still be a big legitimacy issue.
Prof, what do you think of that and the import of the you know, turnout in terms of the outcome of the poll?
Well, all along and even on this show, our opinion has been that the best way to handle this crisis was for people to talk and come out with a solution. What my brother Macharia is saying, so that we don't have to raise the question he's raising about legitimacy, but at least everybody participated. But you know, as citizens of this country, we have played our role to ask leaders to sit down and talk. They didn't. So now, legally, I think it is going to be, I think you can almost certainly predict the winner under these circumstances. But really, the bigger question will be, after this election, we need a proper conversation, in fact, an appointment with the truth, so that we look at ourselves, each one of us, on the face and say, have we been living a lie? Is there some level of hypocrisy in what we say? Because from there, we can understand why, for example, you would have 48%, which I also have issues with. Then you say that after the 48%, why are these 52% not participating? They could have various reasons, but they need to participate in what she calls, in fact, she's borrowing heavily from Rousseau, the French philosopher who gave us the social contract issues. Even John Locke talked about it in A Democracy, that we must have a social contract and the people can withdraw that social contract if, in their opinion, government does not do what they want. So if indeed 48% want to say, we want to give you a contract to look after us, then 52% have withdrawn their desire to hire you. That also raises serious questions. So that means that after this election, instead of even talking about the percentages, we must now say, first truth on the face. Have a conversation with the truth. I hope truth has a life. And then say, what has gone wrong? And then we put it right. So that we can, in future, include everybody.
All right, and we're going to return to our conversation very shortly, looking at some of the factors that may have influenced this 48% turnout that IEBC says was indicated as of 5 p.m. And we've got, of course, more coverage on ballot 2017, the repeat of the presidential race, as, of course, vote counting is underway across the country. Stay tuned. We're back in a moment.